The caverns. You know, in my years of service, I've grown both to love and loathe these dimly lit tunnels. I mean, obviously I've grown homesick, but you know, in a weird, twisted way, the sounds of gunfire started to sound like a lullaby to. Hey, buddy, that's a trap. Wait! So, I'm High Lord Zachary, and I was informed that you're fresh meat, to say the least. Well, aren't you the sharpest bunch? Anywho, I was assigned to train you from whatever this thing is. Let me see here. Caverns for Dummies by Captain Kelvin. Wait, oh my god, we're using royalist training manuals now. You cannot be serious. The old guys could not be any cheaper, could they? Anywho, regardless, attention, soldier. Our budget is not infinite, and if you want to go home to your wives in one piece, you better start taking notes on how to be a proper cave dweller, starting with. So, apparently you know nothing about firearms in combat. Makes me wonder how you survive conscription, but nevertheless, let's start with the basics. You walk around with WASD, you jump with space, sprint with shift, and crouch with C. Shocking information, I know. But you, my friend, are not the Flash. You cannot break into a sprint instantly. Instead, you need to hold down the shift button for a few seconds, allowing you to build momentum before breaking into a full sprint. By pressing T, you're able to check on your ammo. The text is the ammo inside your gun at the moment, while the bar next to it is your reserve ammo. Be careful though, as checking your ammo mid-reload animation will lead to you dropping your gun. Personally, I changed that bind so I drop it when I press reload twice, but that's up to you. This is also known as an emergency reload cancel. The emergency reload cancel is meant as a way for you to cancel your reload in a pinch, but you can also left click to cancel your reload without throwing the whole gun away. But your character will need to finish whatever animation that they're currently doing. So remember, sometimes it's better to have no gun than no gun. Pressing F will allow you to swap camera angles between left and right shoulder. And you'll also adjust your gun accordingly. This allows you to shoot around corners and just get a better visual most of the time. Although it is a bit finicky when you're in a cramped space or you're trying to look down, so be careful with that. Pressing E opens your voice command wheel, and to be honest, it's kinda dog shit. And I heavily encourage that you bind each command to a keybind instead. But should you insist on using the wheel, here's what it does. You can use it to call for a medic, request ammo, or point out enemies. You can request support, but nobody really gives a shit, so don't rely on it. Now, the voice wheel is not entirely just for decoration. The most important one, the one you're probably gonna use more frequently, is the thank you button. The thank you button is not just something that you can just do to be nice. You might have also noticed it's not something you can spam either. You're only allowed to do the thank you once a teammate has actually helped you, whether that be by healing you, giving you ammo, picking up a rook cache, or by stimmed by a mortician. Once you've been helped by a teammate, you get the option to thank them. Once you've thanked a teammate, you both get a buff known as morale. Now there are other ways to get morale, like the Lancer banner and lifting up the banner in points. The Grey Spin, yada yada yada, not the point here. The point here is that once you get morale, you get an increased reload speed and you also get an increased sprint speed. Although to keep in mind that veteran users do not benefit from morale. You'll be able to tell whether or not you have morale if you look at the edges of your screen, as there is a very subtle but noticeable white overlay around the corners of your screen. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled. Officers also get unique lines, allowing them to ping objectives or themselves for people to follow. But once again, nobody really gives a shit because nobody likes officers, but I thought you should know anyway. Do keep in mind that every single weapon has a Q ability. Now what are Q abilities? Q abilities are alternative actions that every weapon in the game can do, which changes some feature about the weapon or allows it to do a special action. For example, the Prince Long Rifle, which is the default rifle you're gonna start out with, its Q ability is swapping between a repeating mode and a single fire mode. The repeating mode is what you expect a bolt action to do. You click on it, you shoot, you bolt the gun, and when it's empty, you reload from reserve. Single fire mode, on the other hand, causes you to reload after every single shot. So you load one bullet from your reserve, You shoot it and then you have to reload again. While this ultimately leads to a slower fire rate, it gives you the pro of never having to actually stop to reload, giving you what is effectively a bottomless clip at the expense of a slower fire rate. Now, I'm not gonna go over every single weapon and its Q ability, that's up to you to figure out, but you know, as time goes on, just remember that every single one has one. And some are definitely better than others. Do keep in mind though that there's only one weapon that does not have a Q ability, and that is the crossbow, so yeah, just keep that in mind. As mandated by the Inquisition, I am required to give you recommendations for your settings or I'll be fired. Wait, I read that wrong. I'll be fired, Squire, that makes more sense. So here's the most important ones that you need to know, everything else is optional. Disable transparent heavy lance makes your lance transparent as a lancer, go figure. Personally, I don't really like this one and usually have it on because it looks silly when you smack people with air, but if it is that destructive, go for it. Disable camera tilting makes your camera stationary while peeking corners, as your character tends to lean automatically. The constant camera movement can really throw off your aim, so it's recommended you turn this one on especially. This one is sandwiched right between Enable Laser for obstructed barrels and Extended Barrel Obstruction Indicator. Bullets come out of the actual gun barrel and not the camera, so these two settings combined give you what's essentially a laser sight, allowing you to know exactly where the bullet is going. Disable Physical Scope for the Volk Scoped Rifle does exactly what it says on the tin, replacing the scope view model of the Volk with a simple zoom, but Volk is a dogshit rifle, so who really cares? Disable Body/Weapon Transparency hides specific view models while aiming. Most notably are the Lancer horns on Empire, the lance on both Lancers when holstered, which is especially useful for Gunsers, and the Vanguard shield while half-guarded. If you do not know what any of these words mean, don't worry too much about it, we'll get there eventually. Skip Dreadnought as Shock Trooper prevents you from being chosen as Dreadnought if you're already a Shock Trooper. Once again, if you do not know what that means, we'll get there later. And finally, but not least, disable Body Shooting. We do not like disrespecting the dead here with the Old Guards. Also, you don't want idiots taking cover behind corpses. So I'm afraid you're gonna have to let go of the fun of shooting helmets off dead bodies. Now that you are well acquainted enough with the basics and know how to move around about as effective as a newborn baby, now let's get into the actual fundamentals of combat and decision making. Starting with... Alright then, cadets, now that we're getting on to the important shit, first order of business is limb damage. Not all injuries are made equal, and not every bullet is gonna send your opponent to God, so it's good to be aware of how different places affect damage values. A bullet square to the chest or in the hand is gonna deal its full damage, meanwhile a bullet in the leg on the other hand will deal 80% of its usual damage, so remember to always aim center mass. Headshots, on the other hand, are instant death, regardless of distance or gun caliber, so remember, helmets save lives. Now when your health goes below 100, your vision will get foggy. Universally, all soldiers are given a first aid kit within their equipment, so you're gonna be inclined to pull it out and heal yourself. But although your vision is no longer foggy, you are not out of danger just yet. Classes can only self-heal up to 100 health, which means that right after healing, you're still within the one-shot range of most rifles. So here's how we meet our first mechanic, and that is blood clotting. You passively regenerate health over time, so long as you're above 100 health at a rate of 6 health per second, or 1 health per 0.15 seconds to be exact. While you cannot check your exact health under normal conditions, you can press T on your medkit to get a rough estimate of your health. You're gonna give a message or a general status on what your health is, and they are as follows. I'm injured, which means that you are below 100 health. I'm hurt, which means that you are just above 100 health. I'm fine, means that you are above 150, and I'm good, which means that you are at full health. There's also a unique line that says when you are in shock, and that is I'm good enough, which means that you are above 200 health but not at full health just yet. So keep in mind that you can also heal allies even if you are not a mortician. Simply hold right click and left click while looking at the teammate. It's kinda like trying to shoot your gun just with a lot less malice. And do keep in mind that if your healing animation is interrupted for any reason, you do not heal. You need to actually finish the animation fully. Now let's talk about your bloodstream, you junkies. Every soldier can have up to 30 units of chemicals in their bloodstream at any given moment. Do not test that limit, it did not go well for the last guy. Now, being showered with stims by your mortician will not cause an overdosage because he actually knows what he's doing. But it can be enforced by enemy soldiers as some of them use chemical weapons. When hit with a chemical weapon and an overdosage is happening, and you're about to meet your grandfathers, your vision goes grayscale, and while sick you suffer the following effects. Your blood clotting is just no longer functioning and you're unable to regenerate health. Your hands are very shaky and your recoil is increased by 100%. You also tend to cough randomly, which shakes your crosshair and gives away your position. This also disables any positive stimulants that you may have active. Pull out your medkit and hold Q, and you're gonna take a pill of paradoxin, which cleanses your bloodstream of any and all stimulants in it, bad and good. It also prevents you from receiving any further stimulants in your bloodstream, which means that you can no longer be stemmed by yourself or by other morticians. And this will stay until the pill itself is purged from your system after 30 seconds. Now that we're done with the basics, let's move on to... But what do you mean you don't know what the guns do? Just look at the manual. You don't know what those in the manual mean. Great, they send me a bunch of illiterate soldiers. Okay, let's take it one at a time, people, okay? The first one you're gonna see is damage, which is honestly such a meaningless and useless stat. The bar really doesn't mean anything. If you wanna find out how much damage a weapon deals, look near the bottom. At the bottom, you're gonna find its damage alongside its fall-off ranges and also its penetration, alongside other stats, which we'll get to in a second. The next bar is precision. Precision is how accurate the weapon is while standing still. This is just how much spread the weapon has, and most weapons have pretty good precision. The next one is stability. Stability is how much accuracy you retain while moving. The more stable a weapon is, the more likely you're able to actually run and gun with it. Do mind that some weapons like the Crestfallen Adjudicator might have abilities that are able to improve your stability stat. Control, on the other hand, is how much recoil a gun has. The lower the recoil, the more it will kick like a mule. You can then also find the weapon's rate of fire and its ammo capacity, pretty self-explanatory. Near the bottom, you'll also find weapon handling, which represents both the weapon's draw time and aim time. Draw time is how quickly you can pull a weapon out of its holster, where aim time is how long it takes you to actually pull it up to your eye and actually take aim. And obviously with the most important stat of all, murders, which is how much blood you have on your hands. Now, just because you're no longer inside does not mean that you're in the clear just yet. If bullets are good at anything, it's penetrating. We're gonna discuss the specifics of penetration in the next session, should you be alive by then, but for the time being, all you need to know is that bullets have absolutely no problem ripping through wooden walls. When wall banging, the bullet will slightly deviate from its path and lose 20% of its damage. That does mean that a wall bang to the leg will only deal 60% of its usual damage. So be mindful of your lantern as it can give away your position behind a wooden wall, and don't rely on wooden walls too much for cover. Alright then, that should be all for today. Now get out there, Hable won't cap itself. Anyone who comes back with a pulse is getting the next training session. Godspeed, soldier.